Well, good afternoon and welcome to the MACC Policy Board meeting, October 22, 2018 at the Fort Sheldon Township Hall. This will be my last meeting where I will actually, I'm staying with the MACC unless I'm not wanted, but where I'll be catching people with food in their mouth when I ask them to introduce themselves, which I've done, unfortunately, on too many occasions. So, but yeah, we'll start with introductions. And to my right,
Nancy DeBoer, City of Holland.
David Van Genhoven, at large.
Howard Alman, Fort Sheldon Township.
Bud Metcalf, Zoom Township.
Terry Nienhuis, Holland Township.
Terry Hoffmeyer, Laketown Township.
Kevin Kleinstra, City of Zealand.
Tom Bird, Ottawa Road Commission.
Jim Story, Allegan County Commission.
Ken DeWeer, Fillmore Township.
Gerald Hunsberger, Park Township.
Todd Walters, Olive Township.
John Conexo, Allegan County Road Commission.
Russ Desai with the MACC Authority Board.
Eric Mullen, and Val Lansing.
Tim Berkman with the MACC.
Pankaj Rajathyaksha with the MACC, and then the staff could introduce themselves, although I think Tim has maybe one introduction he'd like to make first.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out Joe Speldy is there in the back row. Joe is our intern over the summer and has agreed to stay on a part-time basis. He's currently helping with the non-motorized transportation plan and giving that an overview, but you'll get to hear from him more next month as he'll be making a presentation on that topic. But yeah, if we could have everyone over there introduce themselves.
Carolyn Alston with the MACC.
Amanda Price from Senator Bucock's office.
Sally Buckman, City of Zealand. Patty Meyer from Friends of the South Estate.
Elisa Hookwater from the MACC.
Rob Vink with the MACC. Joe Spelly with the MACC.
Kelly Goward with the MACC.
Well, thank you, everyone. Are there any comments from the public? Amanda, is there anything you want to share with the group? Or?
Beautiful day.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take those as long as we can get them. So, all right, then moving into the minutes. Sorry. Any questions about the minutes or corrections? Jerry, you get a second? Kevin? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Minutes are approved. I think the first up we have Kelly. You talked to us a little bit about the watershed project and the MS4 training overview.
Yeah, so this is what I was going to present last month, so we moved it to this month. I wanted to just provide a brief overview of training that we've been conducting that's required for the MS4 or the stormwater permitted communities. And then I think there's a lot of overlap between what occurs in the non-permitted communities, so for the township agencies. So I wanted to make sure you're all aware of this, and if you think that your staff would benefit from this training, we'd be happy to provide it. So just kind of a quick overview of the MS4 permit itself. There are, it should be 6 minimum measures, but that says 7. So there's 6 minimum measures of the permit requirements: public education, public participation, illicit discharge elimination, construction site stormwater, post-construction site stormwater, and pollution prevention, good housekeeping. So the 2 on the list there that are bolded, the illicit discharge and pollution prevention and good housekeeping, are the 2 that have requirements for employee training. And so we, from the MACC, and there's other organizations like the Grand Valley Metro Council, will provide that training for compliance with permits. In the overall goal with this training is also to promote general awareness of stormwater and watershed issues, not just what's specifically required under the permits, but hopefully to get everybody thinking about their everyday actions, whether it's on the job or at home, and how it impacts stormwater and watersheds. So here's a basic look at what the agenda of one of these training sessions involves. And the sessions we've done this fall have been about 90 minutes. give or take, depending on which agency we've been working with. But we always start with kind of the basics of the Stormwater 101, so everybody has the same basic understanding of what is stormwater, why are we managing it, what are the concerns. We talk a little bit about those 6 minimum remeasurements of the permit requirements. And then depending on where we are, if we're in Allegan County, we talk about the Kalamazoo and the Macatawa River watersheds, and then in Ottawa County, we talk about the Macatawa and the Grand River watersheds. If we're in the City of Holland, City of Zeeland, we only talk about the Macatawa because that's their only watershed. But we want to make sure everybody has a basic level of awareness of what watershed they are working in, or watersheds. And then we go into the specifics of the illicit discharge elimination program, which is a fairly general awareness level for all staff. There's more in-depth training if you are actively involved in conducting inspections or investigations related to illicit discharges. But everybody needs to have a basic understanding of what an illicit discharge is and what do you do if you find one. And then we spend most of the time talking about the pollution prevention and good housekeeping. I guess I got a little bit ahead of myself. So kind of, again, with the illicit discharge elimination, it's kind of just general awareness for all employees. And then we do more detailed training for specific individuals that might be more engaged in those inspections or investigations. So pollution prevention and good housekeeping has to do with the maintenance and operation of municipal facilities and making sure that that is done in a way to prevent or reduce the discharge of pollutants. So part of this involves an inventory of facilities. So we've gone through that process for all of our MS4 entities. They are also required to do inspections of their facilities, follow best management practices. So that's where the training really comes in, to make sure that the staff that are working in operation and maintenance activities know the best management practices that should be followed to prevent or reduce pollution. And then the permit also requires that any contractors hired to carry out operation and maintenance are also following the best management practices. So then there is a requirement there that you provide some level of training to your contractors, and we typically do that with a brochure that has the basic requirements there. So here's an example of one specific topic. We talk a lot about vehicles, about parking lots, about lawn care, landscaping, and then for all except for the county, we talk about roads and winter operations and those sorts of things. But most everybody has vehicles, so that's one important thing. We talk about storage of vehicles inside versus outside, and also maintenance of vehicles. Obviously, if you're doing things outside, they're going to be exposed to stormwater, so minimizing that as much as possible. And so these are some of the best practices when it comes to vehicle maintenance: not hosing down your work areas, making sure you're properly disposing of any waste fluids, using drip pans. Inspection and maintenance of fleets will help prevent leaks and problems later, so we kind of emphasize the preventative maintenance. And then making sure spill kits are available, so if there is an accidental spill, they can be addressed really quickly. So this picture here, some of you may recognize this facility. This was a contractor that was not following best practices, so we addressed this with this particular facility. And I know it's really hard to see in the picture, but they're cleaning a vehicle, and then there's a catch basin right there. So whatever is coming off that vehicle is running through the parking lot right into the catch basin. So certainly not what we want to see happen. I just happened to be at this facility the right time to catch that, and they were going to address that with that contractor. So the training is required once every 5 years, so that's the permit cycle, and then within 1 year for new hires. So in order to make it a little bit easier, we are trying to offer some alternatives, putting this training online. I had mentioned before the Grand Valley Metro Council is also involved in this, especially throughout Ottawa County and then the Lower Grand, so Kent County and those municipalities as well. So they are actually working on putting some videos together. So we've got online training that we're working on. They're working on videos, so we should be able to share those among the two agencies and provide some alternative ways to do some online training as opposed to having classroom training every time. All right, any questions about that basic training? Again, if you think your staff, especially parks and facilities maintenance staff, might benefit from this, we can do kind of a light version of training and provide a manual of best practices to follow. So.
Question. This is a requirement for municipal facilities. What about private industry? Is there a requirement or is it simply recommended?
So within the public education component of the permits, that is one of our topics, our high priority topics, is to address these same types of best practices with the commercial industrial community. So we have some materials that we've developed to do that. We're struggling a little bit with how to reach those communities, trying to work through the Chamber of Commerce to get at that audience of more kind of that commercial industrial landscape scale, and that we've struggled with that with the Chamber a little bit. But so that's it. It certainly is a goal. It's just getting in front of the right audience. So if you have any suggestions, I'd be more than happy to talk to you about that.
Just a comment too from my end. I think, regardless of whether your agency is an MS4 entity or not, we're all called to be good stewards of the environment, and that's what this is about. Is you may have maintenance staff or public safety personnel that are the eyes and ears that are traveling these streets and roadways daily, and it's more the idea of finding something and identifying and knowing what to do next. If you're driving by and you see somebody that's washing down, I recall in my former role having done just that, seeing a construction site with somebody power washing something right into a storm drain, and knowing enough to say, hey, that's not right. What do we do next? How do we stop this, or who do we alert? And that's really the service that Kelly's offering, is training staff to know what to spot and to call it to their attention that, hey, this really does drain to our rivers and to our lake, and there's a better way to handle this. And so it's really just a component of environmental stewardship, I think, that whether you're an MS4 entity or not, hopefully something that you can encourage your staff in your local unit to be more aware of and cognizant of and know what to do next.
Just a quick question. What does the MS stand for?
Oh, sorry. MS4 is Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System.
Okay.
So that's the 4 S's.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the MS4 entities
It's
are
the 2 cities, City of Holland and Zeeland, Ottawa and Allegan County, and then the 2 county road commissions.
Okay. Thank you. Any more questions of Kelly on that, or not? You going to update us on a couple grant applications?
Yeah. So a couple that we've worked on recently. So the Regional Prosperity Initiative program, we've had an ongoing project to work on sustainable watershed funding. So we did apply for a 3rd round of funding, of phase 3 funding through the West Michigan Prosperity Alliance. And what we're proposing to do in this 3rd phase is to implement the plan that was developed for us in the 2nd phase. We've been working with public sector consultants, and in that 2nd phase where they kind of put together a framework for a funding strategy, they outlined, I think, at least 10 action items for implementation. So for phase 3, we want to start working through those action items. And a big part of that is going to be stakeholder outreach, reaching out to watershed groups in other regions of the state, statewide groups that would have an impact on this work and that we'd want to get their support to move forward with legislation. Refining the strategy as necessary. There's a lot of details within it we still need to work out. We've had a lot of discussions with our watershed partners, but like I said, we need to bring in some other stakeholders to make sure this is going to work statewide. And then we've got some other things that we need to look at to put projections on participation rates and what kind of revenues we might develop from this. What kind of caps might we want to put on contributions and on administrative fees for the administration of these funds. So there's some of those we need to kind of take a closer look at. And then working through a communication campaign and the materials that would be needed for more of a public campaign to get people to participate in this voluntary contribution. And then also working with our watershed partners to make sure that once money is generated, we have an on-the-ground implementation strategy ready to go. And then really the hope of the outcome from this third phase is that we craft legislation and have that ready to introduce, whether it's within the House or the Senate. We have not identified those legislators to work with, so I think that the election results will have an impact on that moving forward. So we did request the end of August, the application was due. We requested $50,000 to support this third phase, which is less than what we've requested. Each time we've requested a little bit less. And we, like the first round of funding, we had to go and present our project to a group of area stakeholders, and then there was voting. So our project was voted the second priority out of the 6 that were presented. So now the recommendations from that voting go back to the West Michigan Prosperity Alliance Board, and they will make their final decisions and funding allocations at their meeting in about a month, right? 3 weeks, something like that. So I think we're confident at this point that we will receive that full funding, but it will be decided for sure in a few weeks. So questions about this one? So the other grant that we've worked on is to the Michigan Department of Environmental Quality's 319 Clean Michigan Initiative Grant Fund. We submitted a proposal. The Ottawa County Water Resources Commissioner submitted a proposal with several partners that are listed here to do some work in the North Branch of the Macatawa River, specifically in a portion of it designated as the Tulip Intercounty Drain. We're looking specifically at the section between Country Club and 104th, so in Ottawa County, but it is an intercounty drain, so the Allegan County Drain Office is a part of this project. And we're proposing to do both some work in the stream and then some work with some of the private development surrounding the stream. So the Intercounty Drain Board wants to do some floodplain benches, which are essentially like 2-stage ditches. This is just in more of an urban setting as opposed to a rural setting where we've done most of that work with Project Clarity thus far. And doing some other stabilization work in that section of the drain. And then working with FTC and H, they put some concepts together and also looked at some of the surrounding private property to identify some potential sites to do some more kind of urban stormwater management with rain gardens. So they identified 2 sites for rain gardens, one for what they're calling a wetland forebay that would treat stormwater runoff from a large parking lot before it enters the Van Rolte Farm Park. And so this is what we've proposed conceptually. We've got some cost estimates together. So the project was just over $430,000 that we requested from the grant, and then 25% is required as match. The majority of that match would come from the Intercounty Drain Board, which would, from assessments to the district. So I know a lot of you would be part of that once that came out. So hopefully we get the grant so you don't have to be assessed for the entire value of the project, just for 25% of the cost of the project. The other component where the MACC would really be involved is to engage the residents in the neighborhoods around this area. There's several subdivision developments where that stormwater is going right into the Tulip Intercounty Drain. So we'd like to have some community conversations with those residents about rain gardens, rain barrels, and maybe have some rain barrel workshops, see if we can capture and hold back some of the stormwater in those developments to also have an impact on the drain itself. In what we've projected for the load reduction, 708 tons of sediment per year, 606 pounds of phosphorus that should be per year. For the cost of the project and those load reductions, that's comparable to what we're getting with the agricultural practices that we're doing through the GLRI grant and Project Clarity, when you look on a cost per tons of sediment or cost per pounds of phosphorus. So we feel that this was a really good project, and hopefully we made a strong case. It has been submitted, and we'll find out next summer sometime. It goes through a process at the state, has to be submitted to the EPA for review, so that's kind of a bit of a bottleneck and takes a while to get back. But typically June, July is when they would hear back and make the award announcements. So.
Kelly, what's the length of that drain in total then?
The total drain?
The work would be on the entire length?
The work would just be between Country Club and 104th. And we walked it. We walked the whole thing one day. And according to my, my Stepper app, it's about a mile, right, from road to road, but it was more like 4 miles of stream in that section. We were out there for about 3 hours.
It felt like 20.
It was, it was fun. It was fun because I took the pictures out, but it's very windy through there, and there's a lot of water that flows through there, and I mean some of the bluffs are as tall as this building as far as the erosion that's occurring there. So hopefully increasing the capacity is essentially what these flood benches would do, increase the capacity of the stream to carry water safely, but then with the the rain garden projects, then hopefully we're keeping some water out of the stream, so then we're lessening or taking some of that capacity away. I mean, it's a large drainage district because it's the entirety of the North Branch comes through that area. And we've done quite a bit of work upstream. That's where Project Clarity has done the Hayworth wetland, the Lemire wetland. Rob's done a lot of the agricultural work upstream there. So we've done a lot of work upstream. This is like really far downstream before it enters the McIntyre River that has been neglected largely. The Tullibee Inter-County Drain Board, they basically clear out debris, log jams, those kinds of things, but haven't done any maintenance on it.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Then how many property owners are actually impacted then with this? Because you said there would be an assessment.
Right.
Do you have that number? Or?
Yeah, so the Tullibee Inter-County is a Chapter 21 drain, so it's just the public entities that are assessed. The private entities are not. So it would be the townships, the cities, the counties, I think the railroad, and I think there was one other public entity. So it would be divided among those. I'm not sure how the proportions work on that, but so the private landowners would not be assessed, not directly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, any more questions for Kelly on that grant? So hopefully a year from now we'll, or less than a year, but
right.
we'll know where we stand with that.
Yep.
Well, thank you again. And we're moving on to the transportation program, and Tim is going to cover a set of criteria that the tech committee, that he worked with the tech committee on to evaluate projects.
Right. And before I do, I think it's fitting to note that the first grant app that Kelly reported on was the Prosperity Alliance, and that meeting that happened on October 10th. It was at Fifth Third Ballpark, which was fitting. Kelly delivered the presentation, really knocked it out of the park. It was really well done, though. It was kind of a collaborative effort, of course, amongst our three agencies, ourselves, Grand Valley Metro Council, West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission, but she led the effort and did the presentation. And the first priority that was voted on by the public, very cool project. It's talking about the commuter rail potential between Holland and Grand Rapids, certainly very interesting. They also stacked the room, I think, with people to vote for it. So she came in a strong second without having done that, and I think it spoke well to the project. So excellent job by Kelly. Wanted to talk today about our TIP development process again. Last month, just as a little bit of a review, we talked about the funding that will be allocated as part of this process. So we had some leftover 2019 funds that will be reprogrammed, $320,000 in particular. Then I've got some updated funding amounts from what you saw last time around, but just to give you an idea of what we're looking at for the 2020 to 2023 TIP cycle, we have a little bit of funding left over to program for 2020 because, as you may recall, 2020 is an overlap year. It's part of the current cycle of 17 to 20, and that'll be part of the next cycle of 20 to 2023. So after we get beyond 2020 with kind of what we've project will be left over to allocate. We're in that $1.6 million range for the Surface Transportation Program funds. We did take a hit under the CMACC, Congestion Mitigation Air Quality funds. We're in that $286,000 threshold, we believe. So that's just kind of a review. Also, quickly, what we talked about last month was the timeline that we're going to go through to allocate these funds. So on October 5th, we had a TIP working group meet to look at developing criteria to address the performance measures that Elisa has been talking to you about, pavement safety, transit in particular. October 8th, we had the technical committee convene and discuss the criteria that we're going to jump into that's in your packet. They recommended the criteria that's before you. And then for the sake of time, we've already actually issued the call on October 11th, but made note of the fact that the criteria as presented in that call is really subject to your review and approval. So if we need to amend that, we can. But that's the action that we're looking for today, is to act on the TIP development, TIP selection, really, project selection criteria, I should say. Applications are due on the 16th of November. We're going to get that TIP development committee back together at the beginning of December. Tech will review it and recommend to you on December 10th. And then, as Russ aptly pointed out last meeting, because we don't have a December policy meeting with the holiday schedule, we'll come back to you on your January 7th meeting with a recommendation for the projects to be entered into the TIP. So that was just a quick review of kind of where we're at in the process. As far as getting to selection criteria, I thought it was important to point out a couple of quotes. This actually is a TIP document revision that this body approved back in March that talks about the long-range transportation plan and how one of the tasks in that is to contribute to performance-based criteria, which may be used for scoring and prioritizing projects and selecting transportation investments. That's exactly what we're doing as part of this TIP process, is using that performance-based criteria and trying to have that help guide the process by which we select projects. And then this is another excerpt from our actual TIP document, which just basically shows that with each project that we have programmed, we try to check a box to say which performance area is it addressing. And this is a directive from the Federal Highway Administration that just basically states the TIP shall include the anticipated effect towards achieving our performance targets and linking those investment priorities to those performance targets. So this is something that we're being, directed to on the federal and state levels, is to show that the projects that we're picking will move the needle on some of these performance areas that we've been talking about. So getting into the criteria itself, we've always looked at things like functional classification, the amount of cars on the roadway, pacer rating. Those are pretty easy to put forth and to have as far as some basic criteria. But in addition to that, we developed this list. Elisa and I pulled from several sources, kind of what other agencies similar to ourselves were doing. And looking at things, and this is in your packet, I know it's hard to read on this screen, but is there a regional benefit? Does the project connect a roadway that's between two or more roads functionally classified as major collector or higher? Is it going to be on a roadway that's critical to the system, more or less? Also talk about transit routes and pathway corridors. Environmental justice is a big portion of our long-range plan, and making sure that we're focusing on all areas and also not creating negative impact areas in some. So is the project going to have no adverse impacts to an EJ area? Is it located in an environmental justice area? Complete streets, just talking about, is the project going to serve all roadway users, not just cars and trucks, potentially cyclists, potentially transit users, bus stops, things like that, potentially pedestrians, those with disabilities. That's the idea of complete streets, is looking at all users or potential users of the roadway. Have a transit component because there's a transit performance measure, but will the project improve the service efficiency and attractiveness of public transit? The attractiveness meaning, will it draw people in to use the service, maybe that aren't being reached today? Green infrastructure, getting at some of what Kelly's talking about with the watershed. What are we doing to enhance water quality before it's discharged from our project sites? And in that same vein, environmental, does the project contain elements to preserve, mitigate, or enhance an environmentally sensitive area? Whether it's a wetland area, whether it's prime ag land, whatever the project site is going through, how is it sensitive to that environment that surrounds it? Looking at job growth potential or advancement with economic development. Freight, is the project located along a freight route, and will it reduce congestion or improve reliability? That gets at that system performance measure. And then, of course, safety. What can the project be shown to reduce fatalities or serious injuries? And what I should say is we started out with this as kind of a point system, and the tech committee pushed back on that and said, we really don't want to have a scoring-based selection process, but rather a check yes or no type of process, just to begin to help guide this process. So really this is going to be used as a tool. It's not necessarily you have to check yes on all of these to have your project selected, or even a certain percentage of these. But what it does is kind of help set the framework, set the mindset as we look at project, as the technical committee reviews the projects that come in and come to you with a recommendation. This can be kind of the lens that they look through at those projects. So what I'm looking for today is any questions or comments on this, but ultimately would like to have your approval on a set of criteria to be used in this development of the tip cycle. Any questions?
Need a motion, Tim?
Yes.
I move that we accept the recommended criteria.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The criteria is approved for future use. Up next, Elisa will explain some needed revisions to the current TIP document and recently adopted performance targets. It looks like we'll be needing a motion on a resolution as well.
All right, I would like to make this really quick because last month, if you may recall, we had an extensive conversation about transportation performance measures. And what has happened since last month and today, we basically took those new safety targets that you all approved, and we converted those, well, basically translated them, added text, included them in the Transportation Improvement Program document. So what you have that was emailed last week and is located at your place setting is basically revised text highlighted in yellow, as well as a performance based progress report. So for today's meeting, trying to keep it short and understanding that we have a special guest, Patty Meyer, in just a moment, I wanted to keep this part of the agenda short and also let you know that we do have a resolution. So once action is taken, we'll have a resolution for signature by Punkage. So there's nothing new here other than it's an attempt to communicate a very difficult topic into a manner that the public can understand. And the approach that our MPO is taking, I think, is a unique one, but one that the Federal Highway Administration was pleased to see. We've given you a progress report, and that can easily be updated. It's also included as an appendix item for both the long-range plan and the TIP. So as future targets are adopted, you can simply update that progress report and include it. And it's also intended to be an easy read, though I know there's a lot of technical info in there. Does anyone have any questions about the progress report or the language that was included summarizing your action last month? Okay, and I will mention that The language that I provided to you is a chapter out of the Transportation Improvement Program. That was revised March 26th of 2018. So basically, we just took the new targets and included them. But that makes MDOT happy, and it makes the Federal Highway Administration happy. And the other bonus of doing that now, it wasn't required until May, but you all know that my last day is Monday, so I wanted to make sure that this was tied up so staff doesn't have to revisit transportation performance measures for a little while. So that's all I have.
Okay, and need a motion to approve?
I'll move the approval of the management progress report and the attendant resolution.
Support.
Okay, Nancy, and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Eric, anything to share from MDOT for us?
I can say that the State Transportation Commission approved the MDOT 5-year plan last Thursday. So
Okay.
the latest version is online and the map is out there. So
Okay.
it's kind of, they're off a little bit on their schedule since they've gone to quarterly meetings and then decided not to meet during the summer meeting. So it kind of threw it off where we are now. This was approved after the start of our fiscal year. Kind of a new thing for us.
Okay.
But it is out there and will be reported to the legislature by their deadline of March 1st. It's still there, so it's lots of time to get it there, but that's really
Okay.
from the planning world, that's what was the significant thing in the State Transportation Commission. And that our director is retiring at the end of this month here, so
Okay.
he will be out, and they have not named his replacement as of yet, but we think there's going to be at least an interim person named shortly.
Okay, thanks, Eric. Up next, I think we have Patty Meyer with West Michigan Historic, talking about West Michigan Historic Sites and in the Community Enhancement Program that the MACC
I
was
feel
a part
a
of
little,
while ago.
sorry about that.
No, go
I'm
ahead.
finished. I feel a little like the Monty Python portion of the show, now for something completely different. I come with no charts or graphs or anything or lots of data, but I do want to thank you so much for those of you who are involved in the Community Enhancement Program. The Friends of the Felt Estate received the first Community Enhancement Program grant. And it was for $5,000. And I know that a lot of you just checked out because $5,000, most of you spend more than that on an environmental impact study for an outhouse. You know, I get it. I mean, all of the numbers that I see up here today, there's, $320,000 for this and $500,000 for that. But I want to tell you, for a nonprofit, $5,000 is a big deal. It is. When I started at Friends of the Felt Estate, one of the first things, and this is 17 years ago already, and one of the first things I thought is, I got to get together with other historic home directors, and we've got to start to market together. So I went to them, and I got nowhere. You know why? Because none of us could pool any money. We were so busy trying to keep our own little door a little ways open. We didn't have any money to share. My dad was in the septic tank business, and he used to tell this story about when you got no wiggle room. He had 2 workers on a job site, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with the septic tank. And one jumped into the septic tank, and he was up to here, right up to here. And when you jump into a septic tank and you're right up to here, you don't make waves. And when you're in a nonprofit and you got a really tight budget, you don't make waves. And that's where all of us were as nonprofit directors. We couldn't do anything. We couldn't be creative. And thankfully, the Community Enhancement Program Board came up with this idea, let's give small grants to nonprofits, and let's make it that they didn't have to come up with a match. That's always my problem. There's grants out there. Sure, there's $50,000 grants, there's $100,000 grants, and they always need a match. I don't have that money. I can't come up with that. So I want to tell you, I went for a grant, and first all I wanted was to be able to make this brochure, and each of you have it. And it's simple. It's a brochure of historic homes in West Michigan. It includes, of course, the Felt Mansion, where I'm a director, but it includes a lot of other historic homes as well. Now, some of those aren't in the MACC area. I'll be honest with that. But that's because you don't have historic homes of West Michigan and not include the Meyer May House. I'm sorry, it's a Frank Lloyd Wright home. So some of them are outside the MACC area. So to make it more attractive for the MACC people, we broadened it a little bit, and we made it that there was also, so here's the brochure. We made it that there was also a West Michigan Historic Sites website. And that website includes historic sites from all over. Now this one is from Park Township. It's got maybe Laketown? Where's Castle Park? Laketown? That's in Laketown, but it's got, we've got the lighthouse that's in Park Township. We've got ones from all over. There's hundreds of sites now, and you just need to go down this list. They're in alphabetical order. So they're from all over, and the reason I brought my phone up is there's another component. If you go to this website on your phone, it's also mobile ready. And although I haven't developed this part of it yet, when you go to one of them, we're going to have it that it says map it. Because, you know, most of young people especially, they want to be able to do everything on their phones. So you're going to be able to press that map it, and it's going to tell you exactly how to get to the historic site as well. So those are really the three components of the grant: the brochure, the website, the mobile app. But it did so much more than that. If that's all it did, it was $5,000 well spent. But it did a lot more than that. It got us talking. And that was really important, because I started to talk with these directors. And we found that, of course my phone would go off while I'm doing this. And so we found out, we found out that we, of course, had so much more in common. We had problems not just with budget, we had problems with maintenance, we had other things we wanted to do. We had events we wanted to share. Hey, what about if we had a magical history tour instead of a magical mystery tour? So now we're getting together to do that. So I brought this up at the Lakeshore Nonprofit Association meeting. How cool it was that we were starting to partner on things more than just this brochure. And someone came up to me at the LNA meeting and said, I wonder if our network could start to partner on stuff. He happened to own a nonprofit that was in charge of helping local breweries promote themselves. And so he thought, we're going to start a tour of all of the local breweries in the area, start a walking tour in our area. So this brochure, while it's small and it's a small niche, did more than just that, much more than just that. It got people talking, and many more people talking than just from the historic homes. So I want to thank you. It was great fun working on it. There's still more work to do. If you happen to peruse the site and there's a historic site that you don't see on it, feel free to email me. I'd love to add it. I'm still working on it all the time, adding sites. Someone from Fillmore has recently sent me 15 historic homes to put on there. They're not open to the public, but they are over 75 years old, so I'm going to add them to the site. And I, again, thank you. It was a great honor to receive the very first one. I hope there's many more to come for other nonprofits. So thanks very much. Yes, questions?
Yeah, I can't access the website right now, but, so I'm wondering, is the Van Raalte Farmhouse on that list?
It is.
Great. Yeah, this is a story that needs to be told, and when we can grow it, it makes people stay longer and appreciate everything that makes this area wonderful, and it helps us learn from the past, which is something we tend to push out of our lives, and if we don't work together, everyone is just going to kind of fall off and dwindle. So really appreciate you taking the leadership on this and helping people work together. It'll help all of us.
Thank you, and I think one of the things we overlook is really the economic impact of historic sites. Another, I tried to keep it short, but that's another whole talk that I could give. The Felt Mansion just alone, I'm not going to speak to the other ones, but the Felt Mansion alone brings well over $1 million into the area. And that's because we host over 50 weddings a year. Each wedding in West Michigan brings $25,000, and the Felt's not getting that. That's going to the hotels and the caterer and all of the things that go into a wedding. And so, well over $1 million is going into the area from that historic site. And plus people that come to an area for a historic site are people that have more disposable income, so this is a study that's well known about tourists, they tend to stay longer and spend more while they are there. So it's all good things. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you, Patty. Appreciate it.
Tim, you were going to add
Yeah, I just
something?
wanted to thank Patty for coming and helping us kind of shine a spotlight on the Community Enhancement Program, and also point out that Sally Gruppen from the City of Zeeland is here. She's on our board, our chair of our board, and also Russ serves on that as well. And I'm just getting up to speed, of course, but this is a group that's, mission, as I noted here, is to support efforts that will have an enduring positive effect on the quality of life and economic vitality of our greater community. And so, in meeting with some of you all one-on-one, I've heard a lot of, there's got to be more that we can be doing beyond just transportation and water. Those are two very big things that we all need to work together on, but focusing on the assets that we have as a region, and that's what CEP, or the Community Enhancement Program, is intended to do. So wanted to kind of highlight that, certainly tout a success story of what Patty just shared here. And then also, we're looking for applications. The next round is due November 9th. So if you know of any good candidates or have any suggestions, either tell them to contact me or let me know who they are and I'll contact them. But really an excellent program, and look forward to more success stories just like Patty's.
And I forgot to mention too, Tim, that I left free passes. So anyone that wants to visit the Felt Mansion, you can do that. We have a very busy holiday season coming up. I'll let you skip darkness tours. Not my favorite time of year, this Halloween, but holiday season you'll love. So starting December 1 and going all the way through New Year's, we have all kinds of wonderful Christmas events. So come out and share the season with us.
Thank you, Pat. Okay, moving on to administrative issues. Tim, I think you have the monthly financial report.
Yes, you have this in your packet, of course. This reflects the budget amendment, the third and final one that was approved last month, basically showing that through the end of September, which we expect a few more things to still trickle in, but revenues are at 90% of projections, and expenses are at just over 86% of projections. So be happy to try to answer any questions you may have, but that's the financial report for the month of September.
Any questions for Tim? Okay, if not, we'll move on to, I think we just have the executive committee minutes from October 8 in there.
Right, those are in your packet as well, and always like to highlight something from these, but one of the things that we talked about was the emergency services working group getting back together, and that did happen on October 17th, and great to see the fire department agencies all and EMS represented at a meeting that we had on October 17th. And a lot of great discussion and good ideas, I think, coming from that group. And In fact, in November, we're looking to get together all the training officers from the different agencies to collaborate and come up with ideas to maybe align some training schedules or offer different opportunities, so that if you have a fire department personnel that can't make it to your training, maybe there's one in a neighboring jurisdiction that's happening the next week or the next month that they can jump in on. So again, another opportunity for collaboration, and I look forward to continuing with that group.
Thank you, Tim. Following the change in our bylaws, I think Tim met with the nominating committee, and we'll let Tim summarize those recommendations.
So at your last meeting, we appointed a nominating committee that met on October 9th. And as Pankaj referenced, with our new bylaws, it calls for the executive committee to have a 7-member makeup with at least one city and township participant, one county participant, a transportation participant, and an at-large rep. And so we came with the following slate for you. Kevin Kleinstra as a city participant, Terry Nienhuis to continue as a township participant, Jim Story representing a county participant, Tom Bird on the transportation side, and then Hannes Myers, Pankaj Rajadaksha, David Van Genhoven, all at-large members. Did I say that right?
Yeah,
okay,
close enough.
I tried to go fast. And then the bylaws also call for us to nominate a chairperson and 3 vice chairs, as well as a treasurer and secretary. And at our exec meeting, Pankaj said that he's enjoyed that responsibility. I think at least he said that, but was fine if somebody else wanted to take over those duties. Sure. So we discussed David assuming that responsibility, with Pankaj staying as vice chair. So we'll probably still see you in those moments or days that David can't be here, as far as assuming that role. But Hannes and Jim Story both being a vice chair, Tom Bird serving as treasurer, and then myself as the secretary. So ultimately need a motion approving these list of candidates for those positions.
I'll make that motion.
Russ, second. John, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
I was on that committee, and I'll tell you, I think we're blessed when you look around this room, and I think the people on the committee would agree.
Yeah.
We got a great balance
Yeah.
and wonderful experience and talent. I'm glad we amended the bylaws and we're going the way we are. I think it will serve this organization well going forward.
Thank you, Jerry. We appreciate it.
And if I may, also, we wanted to recognize Pankaj for his service thus far. And again, we're not saying goodbye, fortunately. He'll still be here, but had a certificate to present to him, a certificate of appreciation that says, "In sincere appreciation for your service as chair of the Macatawa Area Coordinating Council's Policy Committee from June 2016 to October 2018, as well as your belief in the value of regional cooperation, your commitment to the development of the Macatawa Area Coordinating Council, your faithful participation on the executive committee." So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And though it says 2.5 years, to me it's felt like 2.5 months, I will say. But,
it has been 2.5 months for you.
Right. So had also to go along with that, a MACC mug filled with some sweet treats. And in my first, I think, week or two here, I was told that, have coffee and water available for our executive committee members, but anytime Pankaj shows up, make sure you have a Diet Coke. So, so there's
we all have our vices.
Something to fill your mug with, but thank you for
We need
your
a budget
service.
amendment for this?
We found some coins to float that, so thank you,
Well,
Pankaj.
thank you so much, and it's been a pleasure. I started with the MACC in 2009, and it's been a real pleasure to be a part of it. And I think I've said this before, but just to echo your comments, we have a really good group of people serving our taxpayers, and people who have worked in other areas. And I think even Elisa, when she worked in Chicago, has commented on the difference in the amount of cooperation we have here versus a lot of the political fights that sometimes happen in other areas. So thank you for everything you do. Just as a citizen. Thank you. All right. Howard, you're up. What's exciting in Port Sheldon?
Yeah, well, welcome to Port Sheldon Township. It's a beautiful day. I think in the past I brought up a park project that we're going to be doing some major renovations. It's a township park located directly west of the Consumers Energy power plant, and that's going to be underway within probably 2 weeks. We received bids, it was awarded. We're also receiving a $300,000 grant from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Trust Fund that will go towards that. We have 2 new elected officials this year. Our township clerk retired in January, was replaced by a fine woman. Her name is Teresa DeGraff, and it's going well with her. And then our township treasurer retired September 1, who had been with us 45 years in that position. Esther retired, and she's we appointed Rachel Frantum, another real fine woman, to fill that position. If there's change in the office, it's good, but in a small office, you get to know everyone quite close, but these are 2 great people to work with us. So we've had a couple of developments that are happening just like everywhere else. The economy is good. Out in the northeast part of our township is probably the only area where we have water and sewer. And there's a couple of new developments out there called Arbor Woods. Going to be 75 homes that's underway. And another one is going to take off out there. It's Ventura Shores. That'll be 50 homes. And that's about all I have. We did survive a major tax appeal this past winter, and we're moving forward from there. There was a major tax appeal with Consumers Energy appealing their assessment. We worked through that, and we're moving forward. So that's all I have. Again, welcome.
Thank you, Howard. Any comments from any other members, or?
I saw the other month last month I think it was, that John had his 50th wedding anniversary, so congratulations, John. You looked a little different when you first got married.
We all do. Yeah. But okay, so now I think the last item on our agenda is to do with Elisa Oakwater. Elisa has been a part of the MACC for many, many years and very valued employee. But as you know, she has now accepted the position of the director of MACC Transit. So I want to thank you for everything you've done, but also wish you well. And we know you'll be close by, just like Steve is, so we'll probably reach out from time to time. But again, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to share, on a personal note, Elisa has been wonderful in guiding me through this transition, extremely helpful for the past 3 months. She just has a tremendous amount of knowledge and insight on this region, on what she does. She's an expert. I think some of you may know this, or maybe you don't know, but I think she's really put the MACC on the map as far as MPOs across the state in terms of initiatives and things that she has led and driven, and so certainly has gone above and beyond. And so while it's a huge loss for the MACC, it's certainly a gain for the region in terms of some new leadership at MACC Transit. I know she'll be a great fit for that, and excited for them. So we had another certificate to present today. This one says, presented to Elisa in sincere appreciation for your commitment and service to the Macatawa Area Coordinating Council from March 2008 to October 2018, including such notable accomplishments as the development of the MACC Long Range Transportation Plan, development of the Long Range Plan Alternative Scenarios Initiative, coordinator of the Clean Air Action Program, implementation of the annual Green Commute Week program, and leadership of the Transportation Technical Committee. So thank you, Lisa.
This is very special. Thank you all. I have a few words that I wanted to share with you as well as a few parting gifts. So I'm going to set this down a moment. And my parting gifts are going to come in the form of an email. So I'll just let you know that now. First, I wanted to start with a story. My husband and I were contemplating moving back to Michigan. We lived in Northern California. Our families were all here. My husband's an engineer, and I'm a planner with a lot of engineering background and interests. So put us together and we analyze everything. So we came up with a spreadsheet. This is true. It is true. And we looked at different communities in Michigan where we might want to live. We did an internet search and what popped up but Park Township and the non-motorized network. So we started looking a little deeper and we realized the uniqueness of this area was a perfect fit. My first language was Spanish. There are a lot of Spanish speakers in this area. My husband is from a Dutch family, and it just seemed like the perfect place for us with a downtown and a region, multimodal. It just seemed like the perfect place for us. So 11 years ago, I called Steve Bultice and asked him if we could meet. And I was invited for coffee with Sue Higgins, and that's how this all got started. I have such great pride for the work that you all do. And what Pankaj said earlier is so true. I worked for the Northeastern Illinois Planning Commission, and when we would go to regional meetings like this, it was not a friendly atmosphere. It was very competitive, and at times, I've told this story, I wouldn't leave the meeting space. I would bring my snacks with me in my briefcase because you didn't know what happened when you left the room. And I've never, ever sensed that. So, and that's a true story. I definitely brought food with me. So, yeah, I have great pride. And what I've seen you all accomplish together has been remarkable. You are on the map, and I wanted to share a few things. I promise to be brief. But there are so many things that our region does well. You know, I love data and I love using information to make good decisions, but our MPO has been selected as a national best practice for scenario planning, and you know that we work with MDOT on that, so that's a super great thing to be very proud of. So it's a tool that you have available to you. The software is available and staff knows how to use it, so I wanted to just let you know that. And yeah, and then I have at your place settings an opportunity for you to give input on autonomous vehicles. And you might wonder, why in the world did she give us this press release? Well, the Federal Highway Administration wants your input. They're coming out with guidance, and this is something that in the future of transportation will impact all of us. So you have an opportunity to provide your input and let the Federal Highway Administration know what you'd like to see. Curb space will be very different in the future, but you have an opportunity to preserve and maintain the character of your communities with planning guidelines and site design. So with that, I'm going to stop, but I will send you an email with some links so that you have the opportunity to continue to get involved. I'm so very thankful, and I'm also super excited about the future at MACC Transit. I am just delighted, and I am so thankful to continue to work in this region and really to improve mobility. So, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Closing comments.
Yeah, Tim's got a couple closing comments.
Just a couple closing remarks. One, it's good to know I wasn't the only one who developed a spreadsheet when deciding to come to this area. So we have that in mind. But again, really excited for Elisa in this new opportunity. Happy that Max Transit will have her, but Russ is being demoted to the end of the lunch line for a couple of months because of them stealing her and making my job that much more difficult. But I'm sure you're wondering kind of what's next. And while today's about Elisa, letting you know what we're doing for in the coming weeks, have a person that I think is ideally suited to step in where Elisa's leaving and is trying to button up so many things as she's going. But of course, there's many things that she's working on a day-to-day basis. And this person has had a great mentor, learning the kind of the ropes of what we do and what she has done. And the best part is you already know her. So Carolyn Olstead will be promoted to the role of transportation planner and assuming a lot of those responsibilities. We're going to be posting a position of assistant planner to support a lot of the transportation efforts, but also to support what Kelly is doing on the watershed side. And then we'll have some admin responsibilities that we'll either figure out how to divvy up or potentially hire a part-time person to help with that. But that's where we're going. You'll hear and see more of that as we go. But just to answer that question of how are we going to keep the ship afloat, that's the plan going forward. But congratulations, of course, to Elisa. We're happy that she's staying close because we'll certainly pester her, I'm sure, many times between now and the next several months. But that's all from my end.
Okay. And then I was told that Elisa's favorite cookies from DeBoer, I hear. And after the meeting, you're welcome to stay and have some or talk to Elisa and go from there. Are there any other issues before we adjourn? No? Yeah.
It's not an issue, but I just wanted to thank Elisa for the way that she has approached things that may not have been super popular. I mean, Green Commute Week, who was that and who cared about it when she started it? And she was able to help a lot of us understand it and participate and be a part of it. And what you had just said about people working together, no matter where they are. And we know that she has that kind, gracious spirit that no matter what has transpired before, she's more than willing to be a team player to make sure that the MACC is successful and the MACC is successful and to answer the phone for whatever people need. And you don't realize how smart she is because of how calm and gracious she always is and humble. So our area is so well served with her example in whatever field she goes into, and we are very thankful that she can still be around here. So thank you.
Well said. Okay. There's nothing else. Then I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second? Jerry? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes.
Thank you for staying involved. We didn't have citizens, well, what would we do?
I'll tell you what, it became almost